Hello, guys. My name is Szymon Jabłoński. I am from 11-Bit Studios, and today I want to share with you why we decided to abandon our in-house tech, how we did that, and what can you learn from our process. So, after brief introduction, I will present the context of my presentation, which is quite brief recap of our in-house Liquid Engine development process. And then I will move to the two core parts of my presentation. The first is technical feasibility study process, which help us to get to that decision, and the technological transformation of the Frostpunk 2 team to the Unreal, which is focusing also on implementing the Agile Scrum methodologies in the team and challenges and opportunities how we can fit to the Unreal Engine ecosystem after such transition. So after lunch, let's start with quick warm-up. Who is using Unreal Engine in development? Okay, and who is using some in-house tech? Who is thinking about abandoning it? Okay, great. so I have some target. So let's start. I'm technical director on the Frostpunk 2 project and also a lead of back catalog team in our organization. I consider myself as some sort of full stack game engineer because I worked on almost every positions, technical positions during my career. And I am also a computer graphics researcher, mainly specializing with sparse voxel octrees and level of detail implementation in real-time graphics. Thesis is still in progress. And 11-Bit Studios is a game developer and publisher based in Warsaw. Currently, we have more than 200 employees, and we are aiming to hit something about 300 next year. We have currently 3 internal projects in development, all on Unreal, and we specialize in meaningful games. We specialize in delivering very emotional, mature experience to our players. We are most known for the This War of Mine and the Frostpunk, and now we have already announced Frostpunk 2 in development and also the Alters project, and still not announced P8 project. This is codename. Okay, but what's the idea behind this presentation? Because this is definitely not the case study of a success story. It's more the case study of a change process. And in this presentation, I decided I want to focus on our mistakes, our fuck-ups, because I strongly believe that the success stories are quite unique and you can learn more from mistakes and which are more universal. And it's always better to learn from other mistakes than from your own. So I will focus on our mistakes during each part of our process, besides of also presenting the outcome, which is from which we are very proud of. Okay, so few words about our context. This is very brief technical development timeline from the technical perspective in 11-Bit Studios. In 2018, we released the Frostpunk 1, and the same year, we kicked off the development of the Liquid Engine 2. Because our engine was quite old and quite old-fashioned, so we decided that we want to create the whole ecosystem that will be good enough to support multiple projects done in 11-Bit Studios. Next year, one of our projects decided that they need to and they want to switch to the Unreal Engine. Next year, the Alters project. And at the end of the 2020, in the Frostpunk team, we have quite big struggle. What we should do? Should we remain as a last project in the whole organization on the custom technology? Is it worth it? How it how we can hit the whole infrastructure building in our organization. And the same year we started the prototyping phase of the Frostpunk 2, we decided to kick off this feasibility study process. And next year we decided to switch to the Unreal. So that's the history. Liquid Engine R1 was the foundation of all our previously released projects, and it was truly cross-platform game engine, but it was very old-fashioned, both on the architectural perspective and the tools layer. So for programmers, for engineers, it was very comfortable tool to work with because we had full control over our technology, but from the content creator's perspective, it was terrible tool. So after analysis of Liquid Engine 1, we decided we want to create something better, something that could support all our in-house projects, some common tool set for any genre of video games that will be very content creators oriented with strong UX focus, advanced tools, tool that will be ready for agile development, ready to support multiple projects, interdisciplinary teams, distributed work on assets. And because of we wanted to focus on the content creators, the visual programming was one of our main paradigm of our internal development. And to be honest, we did that. We created a brand new editor and countless number of tools with based on a few state-of-the-art solutions like ECS. It was very lightweight. It was mostly data-driven. And in order to boost the velocity of tools generation, we introduced also a concept of tools building blocks, which, thanks to which the creation of the tools was more likely building from the Lego bricks. And thanks to that, the tools creation process, we achieved great velocity and consistency. And also, during this development as a tech team, we transformed to the Scrum development process with our own engine QA, production, UX designers, and so on. So to sum up, we made Liquid Engine 1 analysis, created strong vision, what we should do. We build the team, we scale the team, we gain lacking competence, we introduce Scrum, we achieve full-scale development, and we decided to abandon our technology. So what have gone wrong? This is first, and I think the main mistake that I will present to you today is that we had invalid technology development goal. We forget about our main goal, which is production of games, and not the technology itself. So we should have focused mainly on limiting or reducing the risks of our development, not creating better and better tools, because this is always chasing a rabbit. Also, the timing of our feasibility studies was not so great. We should have run it just after the release of the Frostpunk 1 and asked proper questions at that time. And if we did so, we probably would have been celebrating some new releases by now. And also because of that, we scaled our tech team too rapidly. We increased the cost of our technical engineers too much. We focused too much on the low-level foundation of our feasibility, of our technology. So again, running this feasibility study quite sooner would help us to define the proper strategy of your team scaling. So what is this technical feasibility study about? Because this could be done in very different way. So by definition, it's some sort of detailed critical analysis of your project. At some point, you should think about what's the risks of your project. Is it possible to deliver this project in such amount of time, resources? And also the technology is a very important perspective. And our initial approach to that process was to run 3 parallel processes. The first was to try to get the proof by software of our technology. So we created tech demo team which was meant to deliver all our core technical challenges with Liquid Engine 2 for the Frostpunk 2. So starting with large, seamless environment, very complex gameplay system with heavy UI layer, and moreover the narrative-driven strategy game as a core mechanic. The second process is networking-driven process of know-how gathering. So we try to reach as many developers across the world to talk to them how they are utilizing their in-house tech, what struggles they have, how they are supporting multiple projects at the same time, and why they are still using them. And the third process was the technical analysis process itself, which was mainly my job to merge 3 different perspectives to get to the outcome. Perspective of engineer, team lead, as well as the business perspective of such decision. And yeah, next mistake, also invalid question, invalid goal. So our first approach with getting the proof by concept from the engineering perspective was a very good idea. But to be honest, the question about possibility or feasibility to develop your project on technology X is, you can say it's always true because it depends of the costs. So how can you decide about staying with such technology, investing a lot of money for this project and potentially next project by asking such questions? At this point, we should have started by asking ourselves if it's worth it. If it's worth to take the risks of staying with this technology, all risk connecting with creating technology, R&D process, having in mind that our main goal is to make games, give players a great product, made a lot of money about it. So yeah, we slightly changed the focus of our feasibility process to stick mainly to the risk analysis from the business perspective. So what's the strategic business risk of staying in the Liquid Engine? And also what's the risk of moving to the Unreal Engine environment? Our goal was to compare that risk, get some valuable output of it. And in order to do so, we have following assumptions. We decided to trust our intuition because there was no better source of truth in that process, and turn off emotions, which is easy said than done, especially if you're a project lead of such technology and you need to make recommendation about abandoning it. And our expected outcome was not only the recommendation to the company board about what we should do, what we want to do with this project, but also the whole big picture. What's the consequences of the change? What's the transition plan, where we have the opportunities and challenges of such process? And during this analysis, we came up with quite two very valuable inputs, which I want to share with you. We found out that the technology itself could be divided, or we can distinguish 2 layers of our technology. So first is non-elastic. This is our naming. So the part of the technical functionality that's your must-have to deliver the product. For example, the platform support that is required by the BizDev, by organization, by the stakeholders. And a second layer is more elastic. It's the functionalities that could be done in very different ways. So with different cost of development, with different budget, different quality. And the second input was that during this war of mine and the Frostpunk 1 development, we had many problems with some co-development stuff. There was very difficult to find a good co-developer or portrait company that will get your very old-fashioned engine, very hacky engine with a lot of legacy code and create port or add new functionality in defined amount of time. So we know that for the Frostpunk 2, this might be huge risk of our development. Okay, so what's about this risk analysis? To be honest, this sort of thing is not so important. I want to dig in details because this is mostly based on our intuition, but the most important part of this risk analysis is the outcome itself. So we defined 4 classes of risks of our project. The management risks, schedule risk, technical, and the business risks. And it is quite interesting that for the liquid engine too, the risks were mainly from the schedule and the business classes. So risk of staying with liquid engine was connected with these non-elastic layers. So the potential impact is business impact. For example, we won't have time to sim launch, for example. And from the Unreal Engine, the whole Unreal Engine environment, most of the risks was from the technical and the management classes. So it was connected with the elastic technology areas. So our risks was mainly connected with the quality impact. And based on that, we made recommendations. Made recommendation that we want to and we need to switch to the Unreal Engine, having in mind that for the team, it's from the team perspective, it's potentially easier recruitment. We can share competence between projects because, as I said before, we had already 2 projects on the Unreal Engine in the company, and some sort of rotation between projects, sharing common pipelines and tools, resource sharing, cost sharing will be possible. Of course, this is extremely complex stuff, but having a couple projects on the same technology will allow you to do that. Also, from the content creator's perspective, we gave you the state-of-the-art tool. So this is very big change for the not only from the development perspective, but the whole team building, recruitment. Finally, with Unreal Engine, our outsource capabilities are much easier. So it will be much easier to find a right partner to our development in the future. And finally, the technology team itself could focus mostly on high-level, very game-related tools and tasks to create better and better games. Okay, next mistake, and this is personally my biggest mistake in this process is to not include as much as I should the experienced teammates in analysis phase. We focused mainly on the directors and the leads perspective, forgetting about seniors, experts, and specialists in our team. And of course, it's difficult because the matter of the analysis is very difficult. And your team is still developing the engine. It's still reaching for the goal with the tech demo. But after this almost 2 years, I can say that in order to reduce the risk of losing people, you should consider doing that. Okay, so let's focus on the technological transformation of the Frostpunk. Now we know where we are with our technology. We know why we decided to change to the Unreal Engine. And now let's talk about how we did that. Okay, so brief overview. Okay, you have team that know how to make games, team that know how to make technology, but they are in the Unreal Engine. Our competence of Unreal Engine in the team was very, very little. So we needed to introduce new technology to quite big team in the scale of 11 studios. So you need tutorials, you need internal and external workshops. But the main thing, you need to run the whole change management process, both team-wise to take care of your people, to take care of potential morale hit. You need to reorganize your team. You need to redefine your team, developers, roles, and everything. And also production-wise, you need to iterate over your team structures, recruitment strategies, slots, competence that you need, and the whole organization of the production process itself. And we had quite ambitious goal, which we managed to deliver to start the full-scale development of the Frostpunk 2 as soon as possible. Okay, so what we had at the beginning in the context of the team structure, and in this case, I will focus mainly on the technical domains. So at the beginning, we had two strong, well-structured technology and engineering domains. The technology was created to, the technology domain that was responsible for the liquid engine development, and the engineering team that was responsible from the implementation of the Frostpunk 2 game. And it was quite a lot of leads and quite a lot of domains, so we needed to merge it somehow. And our goal was to keep as many people as it possible, but of course the slots for the leaders management roles are limited. And also this year, 2021, was year of free game engines for our team, because we started Frostpunk 2 prototyping in the Unity, because we have very small team with very small team. Liquid Engine was still in development. So the first prototype of the Frostpunk 2 came up to life on the Unity. The tech demo team was creating Liquid Engine, and we needed to switch to the Unreal Engine as soon as possible. In the meantime, we were in the middle, maybe not in the middle, but in Agile, you were always in the middle. Transition of whole our development structure in the project to Scrum, to finding our Scrum, to scaling the Scrum with Nexus, and still finding our own implementation, our own definition and boundaries in the Scrum process. So how we did that? The whole transition was divided into 3 phases. The phase 0 was dedicated to close in progress tasks about the Unity prototype and tech demo as well. We wanted to just leave our repositories in nice and clean way. The phase 1 was very I think it was something around 1 or 2 week warm up with tutorials, time for experiments for the whole team. And the third phase was the game jam for the whole team. We decided that we want to divide our team to four teams dedicated to deliver each own goal. So one team was meant to deliver very simple Frostpunk 1 style city builder in the Unreal. The second team was dedicated to deliver simple text-based Hopa style, mainly UI and narrative-based text game. And the rest of the team was responsible to deliver some sort of beauty corner, to test as many things from the Unreal as it possible, to deliver to load assets from the Frostpunk 1, to, for example, recreate the scene from the Frostpunk 1 in the Unreal. And that was the core part of our transition. Apart from that, we needed to do a lot of things. First of all, gather know-how, because as I said, as a Frostpunk 2 team, we knew how to make games. We knew what game we want to make, but the whole tool, the whole ecosystem was black magic for us. So we needed to gather as many know-how as it possible, learn as much as possible in limited time. So we started to gathering the know-how internally from our friends from the alters and the PA teams, organize some internal workshops to especially introduce, for example, blueprints to the designers, to the narrative designers, uh, tackle the how to create tools, what tools we will need to create to start our development process. But what I think was the most important part is to find external technical reviewer. And this is thing that Epic help us very much to reach very advanced, true senior developer of the Unreal Engine to help us not only learn about the Unreal Engine, but to challenge our way of thinking, challenge our idea how we want to create such a game as a Frostpunk 2, so top-down strategy in the Unreal Engine, with ECS in mind, with our concept from the Liquid Engine. So that was very valuable for us. Then open as much networking channels as it possible. So reach your friends, reach your partners, business partners, find as much know-how sources as it possible, and finally invest as much money as it possible. Invest money for test assets, for plugins, for online materials. It will definitely pay off. Just you can trust me. So about the tech team structure, after a few months of the change process, we finally found something that we will be happy about. Uh, as you can see, this is not so flat structure, and we have many different domains. But just after a few months, and this is structure that it's still ongoing in our project. We have following structure with 4 big domains. The technology domain with deployment, small deployment slash DevOps DevOps subdomain in the team. The gameplay programmers, the tech art domain, which contains not only programmers but also technical artists, lighting artists, sometimes special effects guys to if the topic is it's mainly technical, and of course the QA, which in our understanding of the QA in 11-bit studios is much more it's just part of the engineering department. And next mistake, the whole change process in the context of the team structure was too long. We forget about the iteration process in our mind. We spent almost 3 months of looking for this initial structure, and just after a few months we needed to change it on whole level. And in this case, the most important is that you need to accept the need of iteration on your team structure process and even on the management level, because I think the moving between the domains of employees was countless times. So try to keep it simple, try to kick off it as soon as possible and just iterate over it. The next thing is that we wanted to achieve from this game jam phase too much. we as a directors we had too many requirements for the team. So we wanted to kick off the project development, to get familiarized with the tech for the people, deliver some MVP solutions that could be used in the game development. But definitely we should use it as a team building tool and use this process as a way of discovering the new technology in a very comfortable way. Okay, and a few slides about how we fit to the Unreal Engine ecosystem, not only from the technical perspective, but as a team. After Frostpunk 1, we decided that we want to try something different. We had countless issues with communication between engineering departments, design departments, artists. So we decided that we want to find some sort of agile process, agile methodology in our project. So we introduced Scrum, of course, our way of Scrum, because there's countless versions of Scrum. And we did that for the smaller project. We did that for the Frostpunk 1 DLC development, and that was our best idea. Because if we had started it for the whole Frostpunk 2 project, definitely the outcome will be terrible. In order to do so, we invested in external workshops to introduce the principles of Scrum and build vocabulary for the whole team, and started to seek for your own implementation to your team, to your structure. And the most important thing is that if you go to the Agile, Scrum, or some similar methodology, you need to accept that the team structure is one thing and the production structure is something completely different. And you need to redefine your developers. You need to redefine all roles in your company. So especially, for example, the boundaries between the product owners and the directors. So this is very tricky, and I don't have any silver bullet for it. This is just matter of iteration and depend on what type of team do you have. Also, in order to start such process, to kick off the whole development in Scrum way, we needed to do few redefinition of developers in our team. So from the technical perspective, from the engineering perspective, the two major changes was the assumption that all programmers should be generalist by the definition, because at this point of our experience with the Unreal Engine, it's quite hard to distinguish some domains, some specialities, like who is the tools programmers, who is the graphics programmers. So where is the difference? And also, in order uh, to boost our QA domain, we needed to also perform some quite big changes in our way of understanding of the quality assurance team. Okay, so one real-time example. Of course, I cannot share with you the name of that teams because it may spoil the Frostpunk 2, but this is the example. So as you can see, we have product owners from various domains like design, UX design, and also programming and art. And yeah, and the whole QA is distributed across the development. And to be clear, this is all Scrum teams, right? And Scrum Nexus is used to get it done, in short words. I think the last mistake that I want to share with you today is that we started with this assumption that the programmers should start as a generalist, but from the technology team, it was a mistake because the distribution of the technology across the Scrum teams ended up with a major focus on the gameplay programming. So our technical depth of our project was increasing and increasing in each sprint. At the same point, in the one point of our development, we decided that we need to create a dedicated Scrum team for the technology team. And thanks to that, we could achieve the better cooperation in the tech team, boost the competence gaining process for the engine tools programmers. Okay, and finally, a few words about the quality assurance, and it will be very, very brief because the whole idea of 11-bit Studios QA, it's material for another presentation. So after Frostpunk 1, we decided that we want to redefine our quality assurance team. We need to do something different because we wanted to finally forget about this distinguish between developers and the QA. Everyone in the team is developers, and QA is the same domain as art, design, or production. There is no distinguishing in our way of thinking of the production and the developers. Everyone is developer, and in order to do so, your QA must be in your team from the beginning of your project and the very beginning of your paper design to the end and to the whole post-production maintenance of your project years after the release. And we decided that our QA should focus on two major areas. One is quality control, which is, I think, typical for the QA in everywhere, and also in quality improvement. So we needed to create such a QA team that will be possible not only to check the bugs, but to propose solutions and even make this solution and commit them and submit them to the repository. So if you see the logs of our perforce, there's many comics from the QA in the code, in the blueprints, in the assets, and that's totally game changer for our development process. And thanks to the Unreal, there is two big opportunities for the QA team as well. One is possibility to make tools. If you have interdisciplinary Scrum teams with QA working about some area of the game hand by hand with designers and programmers, QA could propose quite nice tools for this development. Tools that will be very helpful for them to control the quality, but also tools that will be made for the game balancing. So the tools for designers, to be honest, the majority of our tools for designers are currently made by the QA team, and it's totally game changer, and it is possible because of the functionalities that Unreal Engine ecosystem offers. And last but not least, the whole automation process. So again, with blueprints, with functionalities from the Unreal, it is possible to possibility to give the QA the tools to create data validation tests, some automation for performance memory tests, whole cooperation between the TeamCity and Jira and Slack, and this is sometimes the support from the programmers and DevOps team or even IT team is necessary, but the whole ownership of such topics is in the QA team. Okay, so let's jump to the conclusion. Okay, so I Can't wait to show you that, to give you the Frostpunk 2 game, but it's still work in progress. But the outcome for our team is that we are at this full scale of production after this whole change. We have fully running Scrum Nexus with more than 70 people on board. You need to always remember about the iterations. I know that this is the core of the game development, but the iteration over your team structure, your understanding of the programmer specialities, it's also there. This is not just a matter of iterating your ideas or your tools. And it's my strong recommendation to think twice before you start any process, if question you ask is correct, if it's heading you to the proper direction, because also the timing of this question is crucial. The next thing is that the risk analysis, from our opinion, from 11 Studios' opinion, is the key component of the whole feasibility study, because you could analyze countless hours, days, and years which technology will be better for you. For example, from the quality perspective, what features offer technology A or B, but from the whole development process, from making games, it might be not the best question to answer. And as I said before, if you are in the transition process or if you are new to the Unreal Engine, invest as much as possible to get the know-how, to spread this know-how across your organization, especially if you are doing few projects, and that's that. Finally, few things that we learn during this process. First is that developing in-house engine is a constant pursuit. We are chasing the rabbit, which is the state of the art, support for new distribution platforms. And at the same time, we need to run away from increasing technology debt. This is constant struggle. And it's a damn good thing to have its own technology, but you need to have damn good reason to have it, because the cost of it, cost of the development, cost of the maintenance, and the whole risks of having such technology is very high. Finally, if you have your in-house technology from the previous project, that might not be a good enough reason to start another project with this technology. Okay, thank you for your time.